Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Government allocates more than $100 million to address drought mitigation. More chaos in Westmoreland over poor road conditions. And later in sports, Reggae Boys stay top of Nations League group despite draw with Caribbean nations. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. The country is on a dengue alert after more than 300 cases were reported between April and June. The Ministry of Health, during a press briefing this morning, says this is an almost 500% jump in cases compared to the similar period last year. Of concern is an acute strain of dengue was detected among the samples. Our reporter, Jamaica Maitland, was there. Jamaica?
Thanks, Shamela. So the Health Ministry says the country is currently on a dengue watch. 316 suspected and confirmed cases of dengue has been reported as at the quarter ended June. Now, it represents a significant increase, and according to Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, it actually is five-fold compared to the last quarter or the period ending last year. And majority of the cases are among children. And to be more specific, it says that a dominant strain that was last detected on the island in 2010, which is a more acute, which brings on more acute symptoms rather, is being detected among the children. Now, as it relates to testing, the ministry says it currently doesn't have the capacity to test for antibodies, and it won't be able to do so until about January 2024. However, it says that public health facilities can request PCR tests from the National Health Fund. The Health Ministry says an additional funding of $200 million has been allocated to the National Health Fund to help during this time. Additionally, political representatives, to include MPs and councillors, will also be given some amount of funding. However, the exact amount wasn't said. It said these persons are able to go inside the communities and able to identify some of the more problematic areas. According to the Health Ministries, there are 5 parishes that are currently under watch: Kingston and St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Clarendon, St. Anne and St. Thomas. Reporting for TVJ News, I'm Jamaica Maitland.
Thank you, Jamaica. And the government is allocating 150 million Jamaican dollars to increase emergency response over the next 4 weeks to deal with the country's water crisis. The announcement was made at today's post-cabinet press briefing. In the last 12 months, Jamaica has had significantly lower rainfall than normal. The period between October and March last year saw the lowest rainfall the country has ever seen. But while improvements are in the forecast, the authorities warn that the ongoing drought is here to stay for some time.
We'll see for both Hermitage and indeed for Mona that we have had less rainfall or less inflows into our system every single month of the year. Now, this is important to understand. The situation at the other major sources show that, Hope River is operating at 20%, the Alice River is giving us 30%, the Wag Water is giving us 10%, and the Ginger River is giving us 10%. The NWC and our water systems have challenges.
Households, especially in St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas and other areas, are particularly affected. As such, the government has taken short-term measures to help mitigate the problem.
And the government would have approved on Monday 150 million Jamaican dollars to increase emergency response over the coming 4 weeks. Now, it is focused primarily on eastern parishes, but where there are issues with some water systems outside of the east, we will also give residents the support that they desperately need. That $150 million will be broken down with $80 million going to the National Water Commission to increase trucking to critical infrastructure, certainly your hospitals, your schools, your health centers, and indeed homes for the aged.
And $10 million will also be allocated to the National Irrigation Commission
to help with some trucking in the hills of St. Catherine, Clarendon, St. Mary, and St. Anne, where we're having also reduced rainfall. We've also, of that 150 million, $60 million will go to the Ministry of Local Government to increase their support to local communities within these parishes. You see, we accept that no one agency of government or no one ministry of government can provide the sort of support during this sort of crisis that we're experiencing because of the reduced rainfall.
The government continues to work on other water sources to avert a crisis in the future. Meanwhile, local government minister Desmond McKenzie is cautioning against the sale of water provided by the government. He revealed it's been sold at water shops.
We are providing water free of cost to all the communities. And I know of cases where people would abuse the system by filling up tanks and going back selling the water to communities. I urge people, once you find that, report it to the municipal corporation or to the Ministry of Local Government. It is a collective response to the water crisis.
In a TVJ News follow-up, Education Minister Favour Williams says 380 teacher vacancies have now been filled in public schools. Mrs. Williams gave the update at today's post-cabinet press briefing. She says some schools have also reported that interviews are ongoing to fill the other available slots.
We are also seeing a good take-up of teachers being their own replacement. These are those teachers who are approved for 4 months or 8 months leave. A total of 519 have so far decided to forego their leave and remain in the classrooms. Additionally, 68 teachers who were due to retire have decided to remain for some time, and we really thank them for the decisions that they have made to continue to be in our classrooms with our teachers. Of course, we thank our existing in-service teachers. We thank the new teachers coming in, and again, those who have seen it fit to decide to be in our classrooms even though they were approved for long leave or retirement.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. More chaos in Westmoreland this afternoon as protest over poor road conditions enters a third day. Several schools have been impacted as taxi operators blocked the tollgate main road to demand action from the authorities. As Kalisha Williams reports, Member of Parliament for Western Westmoreland, Moreland Wilson, is urging the taxi operators to end the roadblocks.
They have been taking to the streets since Monday, and it appears their determination is not waning. In fact, these taxi operators are even more upset about the state of the toll gate main road in Westmoreland. The ripple effect, chaos in the streets as the commuting public, especially students, are left stranded. The taxi operators not only withdrew their service, but they used their vehicles to block the roadway, leading to a cat-and-mouse game between them and the security forces.
Lock them up!
Many students could not attend school Wednesday. For instance, we were told the Grange Hill High and Frome Technical High Schools have suspended classes today, and sporting events had to be cancelled Tuesday evening.
First, I want to express how unfortunate it is for many of our students to begin their academic school year in this way.
Member of Parliament for Western Westmoreland, Moreland Wilson, is appealing for the taxi operators to find alternative ways to voice their grouses.
I would want to say to persons who are consistently blocking the road to please cease and desist. We are not saying you should not protest. We are saying don't block the roads. When you block the roads, it causes major interference as it relates to commerce, business of persons, and just general persons getting about their business. Emergency services have significant difficulties traversing this space.
In regards to their request to have the roads repaired, Mr. Wilson says work is underway to patch sections of the roadway. However, ironically, the protest has also prevented the contractors from doing their job.
And that leads me to another critical point where the National Works Agency has also indicated that funds were allocated and identified for some road patching to ease the pressure and the plight of the pain of some of our motorists. And we would have seen as well where the Prime Minister and the Minister of Works have announced a Spark program. Some $2 billion will be spent in Westmoreland in the parish.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
And over in Portland, a similar scene. This time it was not a protest, but students and other passengers were forced to sit in traffic for hours due to construction work on the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Reports are that the main roads in Anchovy and Dolphin Bay in the parish was dug up to create a drain, but commuters and taxi operators are incensed about the way in which it was done.
Just get up and cut the main road in two like this. And you know have a detour road and then something. That's stupidness. Stupidness not. If you cut the road, you have to make sure so you have a detour road. A public road this. You can't do that. All them this roadman work so. Them work stupid.
It's time for the Business Minute.
General Accident Insurance Company Jamaica will move to the main market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. This will take effect September 27 this year. The company has been listed on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange since September 30, 2011. General Accident says the move reflects its growth, increasing scope and ability to comply with the applicable governance standards for companies listed on the main market. Trading for the company will continue as normal. Further afield, online prices are trending downward. A report from Adobe Analytics on Tuesday showed that prices dipped 0.4% between July and August. That might not sound like much, but year over year, they declined 3.2%. That's the biggest annual drop in 40 months. The report is a sign inflation in the US might be slowing. And Apple launched a new series of iPhones. The iPhone 15, which comes to the market September 22, will be sold at the same prices as what the flagship devices were being sold at last year, starting at $799 per unit. This reflects a slowdown in the global smartphone market. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Prince Moore.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report. In this evening's health report, we look at dengue.
This particular mosquito, the Aedes aegypti mosquito, is a mosquito that not only transmits or is a vector for the dengue, but is a vector for other diseases. Right? A disease known as Eastern equine encephalitis, which is a virus that affects the brain, is seen a lot in South America, not in Jamaica. And but most important infection that I will speak about is, of course, the dengue infection.
That's the health report in primetime news at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Cover and clean water containers on a regular basis. Keep your house clean and tidy. Wear protective clothing like long sleeves and pants. And destroy mosquito breeding sites. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Barbados Agricultural Society says the soaring temperatures could lead to decreased production and increased prices for local agricultural produce. Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul, says the country's livestock farming sector faces the biggest threat. He urged consumers to brace for price increases. On the international scene, health officials in the United States say most Americans should get an updated COVID-19 vaccine. Advisors to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention endorsed the new shot for everyone 6 months and older, and the agency's director yesterday quickly signed off on the panel's recommendation. That means doses should be available this week, some as early as today. The severity of the COVID-19 pandemic has faded, but there are still thousands of hospitalizations and hundreds of deaths in the U.S. each week. And and rescue teams in Libya are struggling to retrieve the bodies of victims that have been swept out to sea in tsunami-like floodwaters. At least 2,300 people have been killed. 2 dams and 4 bridges collapsed in Derna, submerging much of the city when Storm Danielle hit on Sunday. About 10,000 people are reported missing, and the death toll is expected to rise further. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Kelisha Williams.
Thanks, Kelisha. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.